Hui Mauliola proudly presents Leo Kupa, E Ho'olono Mai, the thought-provoking podcast on perpetuating Hawaiian healing and wellness. Leo Kupa is hosted by Kamakanui a Ha'ilono Jingao.
E kia kua mauna loa la ila lo he kai. Na hau ma ua ia ka hina alo. I ka hiki nei komohan. Na kupu na mahalo piha. E ho mai kai kama ke o. Mnia oko, mnia mako. Mnia kako a mama uan e ho o man Wei kako aloha
Hey, aloha.
e ho aloha mai. Welcome to Leo Kupa from us at Hui Mauliola. The mission of Hui Mauliola is to perpetuate Hawaiian healing and wellness and empowering our people through healing. This Leo Kupa podcast is our way of capturing the stories of empowerment from our kupuna and practitioners in our community. Today, we have a special friend and guest joining us, Maka'ala. Hello, Maka'ala.
Hey, aloha mai. Hey,
Right on.
maka.
Well, Maka'ala Yates is a Kanaka Mauli who specializes in Hawaiian medicine. His studies began at the age of 6. He has been teaching Hawaiian medicine and practices for 35 years. He is the founder of Manalomi and Indigenous Botanicals. Maka'ala is also an original crew member of Hokulea in 1976. He is also a Vietnam veteran. And in 2005, Maka'ala received the Ka'onohi Award for his excellence in Hawaiian medicine and community support. He is also the author of Na'aua'ola Hawaii, Hawaiian Practices and Principles of Well-Being.
Being well, yeah.
Of being well, correct. Na'aua'ola Hawaii, Hawaiian Perspectives and Principles of Being Well. Leo Kupa, pa'ipa'ilim. Let's welcome Maka'ala Yates.
Yeah, you know, that book took me almost 7 years to write. But the context itself, is simple. The simple concepts of Hawaiian principles and practices. But the reason why it took me so long to write is because at the beginning of the book, if you notice, there's my chant of who I am. So during my great-grandfather days, everyone is born with a chant, or a chant was created after you're born or before you're born. Auntie Margaret, who was my teacher for 16 years, she had a chant before she was born. But that practice wasn't carried forward. So I had to write my own chant of who I am and what I'm here in this world. And that's why it took me 7 years to write that book. The chant took me over 6 years.
Right on. So that chant was what you wrote that chant?
Yeah. It's it's to qualify who I am. Hawaiian. When you visit another Polynesian island or culture, you always present your chant of who you are, where you're from. And I just never had one when I was born because of the colonization, the illegal occupation of the United States and so forth. And so I had to do a lot of deep meditation and, search within to find out, my chant, who I am, So the chant is called, there are two forms of genealogy chant. And this form is a kuamo'o. And so the title is He Oli no na Kupuna o Maka'ala. So it talks about my birthplace, my ancestors, and it also talks about the wind. When we're born, we always have a wind present. What is the name of that wind? Mine was the Pilihala wind of Ka'avaloa. So the chant really describes my connections to my ancestors and also the different dimensional connection of my ancestors. Um, and what my role is while I'm here in physical form.
Mm-hmm.
So it's taken me a while to connect the dots. I mean, because all the elders died already. All the people that I was around with, especially the women elders who took care of me when I was growing up. I was always surrounded by Hawaiian women, and they watched over me, protected me. I didn't know that then. I found this out later in life when I was an adult, when I was talking to um, Mona Kahele, Auntie Mona Kahele from Kona. She wrote the book Message from the Clouds or something like that. You remember? Have you heard of that book? It's a good book. Her notes to herself, and this book is all about that. It's from Auntie Mona, and she was the one who told me, revealed to me the things that when I was growing up and I didn't know about. How she took care of me also when I was a young boy. So anyway,
Yeah.
I've been off
Did
track.
you know? Yeah. Did you know from a young age that this is the work that you would be doing? Traveling around, sharing about the importance of these practices from these kupunas and stuff. Was that something that I know you started from 6 years old. Um, was that somebody ingrained that into you, or was that kind of?
Well, that's interesting because what happened was my two sisters, they're 1 year younger than I am. They're twins. And we all three of us would be asked to work on our kupuna. And then the first time I remember was in Nanakuli, at Auntie Phoebe's house, and Uncle John. They've long gone since then. And no, not like this. Do it like this. Do it like that. And I was whispering to my sister. And it wasn't like a one-time thing. This was like hours and hours of working on the kupunas. And in those days, you don't talk back. You just do what you're told to do and all that stuff. And I whispered to my sisters, because my auntie was sleeping, snoring. And I said, when I get older, I'm never going to do this work. I hate this work. You see, but they knew. So there were things that was relevant then that I had no clue about, that they knew about, and that's why I feel that I was being guided by the people in my community, especially in Kona. And the second book that I'm writing right now, I'm finished. The context is finished. It's just going to take a while for it to be formalized into publishing format. It's called The Women Kahuna, and it's about the three women in my life who were kahunas: Auntie Margaret, Auntie Iolani Luahini, and Auntie Mona Kahele. No, Mona Simeona. So, and it's a very interesting, magical experience to walk with me in this connection, and how we interacted and how we crossed paths, and how they recognized and saw things, and started the waking up process of who I am.
Awesome, awesome. And with Auntie Margaret Machado, did she? I know, like looking back, and that term of a kahuna that now we would look at her as, hey, she helped people through those healing process. She was on kahuna. Did she call herself on kahuna, or?
None of my teachers, including Auntie Eo, Mona Simeon, they all were kahunas. So the idea behind the term kahuna, see, there's a lot of misunderstanding, misrepresentation, misinterpretation of our culture, even by Hawaiians. And the reason for this is that there are different timelines that happen in the evolution of the Hawaiian people that has altered our behavior patterns and our philosophy and our thinking process. And so, for example, the warrior period, the Ali'i period, or I call it the warrior period, but that's when Pao comes and he does his thing, and he massacred the male population, raped the women, all that stuff was happening, and I know this from the stories that was told to me by my kupunas, and then you have the missionary period, and that's when the first, I guess, the Catholics first came in, and then the Christians came, and then you had the colonization period, or the illegal occupation period. So I've divided the Hawaiian experiences in different periods, because the speaker who's speaking about our culture, the Hawaiian culture, our knowledge, our wisdom, will interpret something from the original past based on the reference point that they're using on the timeline, on this line of a time period. So, Auntie Margaret, for example, was a very strong Christian. So, her interpretation of mana is a connection to God and Jesus Christ. See, so that was her way of presenting a concept that originated way before the white man even arrived in Hawaii. So you see, interpretation of Ho'oponopono, Lomi, all these things have been varied based on the influences and the indoctrinations that we have gone through as Hawaiians. So now going back to the question you're asking me about, I forget, what was that question?
Like if they, they wouldn't consider. I mean, obviously, other people um, called them like a kahuna. Looking back, Auntie
Yeah,
Margaret as a kahuna.
yeah.
But individually, she didn't really call herself that, or during that time frame.
Right. So all of my teachers never told me to call them Kahuna Baba Ba or Kumu Baba Ba. Never. None of them. Because that title was given to you by the villagers. The people in the Ahupua was the one that addressed you as that. They recognize you as that because you have proven yourself. You have
Uh-huh.
done your due diligence. You have performed in a way that instills this reputation by the villagers. And so when people go around and start saying, I'm Kumu so and so, I'm Kahuna so and so, that is a self-proclaimed title given to them by themselves, not the community at large. Of course, now the community at large has changed based compared to my days. Of course, when the Ahapua system, although it wasn't intact, but it was still operating within the village, like in Kona or in Hana.
Mhm.
They were still doing things traditionally, like surrounding the akuli, and then all the village coming down and helping out, taking the fish out of the net, clean the boat, clean the net, put all the fish together, and then everybody went home with a bag of fish. That's the Ahupua system of a community. We don't have that. It still exists in some way, but it's distant because we're living more in a separated society, and we're going into that more and more now. And so it's kind of hard to um, you still can have that input from the community, your community, the individual, the person where they live, their community will recognize them as such, and that still happened even in my time when I was growing up, in terms of kohala, kona, all recognizing, and they recognize, and my parents would talk about the kahuna and Machado and referring to Auntie Margaret, but they never called her that. But when we talked about her, it was always referenced as kahuna. So that was a title given by the villagers, not by the individuals.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Kumu or kahuna, none of that was it wasn't advocated. It wasn't necessary to address my teachers.
Uh huh. Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
out of respect, of course, I would in certain circles. Auntie Margaret and I had a lot of one-on-one time, you see. But when we are in public speaking, now I'm addressing her differently. I'm giving her a title because that's the respect I have from my community.
Yeah. So that time, what age were you when you were spending this time with Auntie Margaret?
Auntie Margaret was about, was at it right after Hokulea, so about 78, 79. And then I was with her for 16 years.
Oh, nice. Oh, you lucky that
Yeah.
you got to spend that time with such the um individual kumu, you know, kahuna that she is. That kind of for a lot of us doing lomi and stuff, a lot of people know about Auntie Margaret and the work she's done for our communities and for lomi lomi in general.
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate to experience those magical days because to me, they're magical days. They're incredibly amazing, powerful women that came into my life that have helped me to to stay the course in terms of who I am and what I'm here to do. For example, Auntie Margaret would tell me, when we have our private moments, when there's no students around, no Uncle Dan, nobody, no family member, just she and I. We had a lot of one-on-one discussions about things, about life, about culture, about readers, how to read chants, how to read the energy of the person, how to read the signs of the elements, and these were important qualities to have, especially if you're working in the healing arts, knowing how to connect and read the human body in a way that you can determine what's going on internally, so you can respond to them accordingly. And with Auntie Margaret, there were I would ask these kind of questions that I would never ask in a class. About each and everything that we're doing, that I've been doing in my life, and she always guided me to stay in a. She didn't tell me. This is what she said. This is where I was going to. I was heading to. She would tell me from different times. She would tell me what I'm going to be doing, how I'm going to do that, and what my purpose is, of why I'm with her. And I'll fast forward a little bit because it's in my book. I go into details about a relationship between all my teachers, especially Auntie Margaret. Auntie Margaret, the longest chapter, longest section of the book because of my time with her. And that so that I was going to be teaching the work. I was going to be a bridge between the traditional ways and the modern healthcare systems. So I went to chiropractic school, graduated. She even helped me financially to go to chiropractic school, and because she knew that when she left, or when she left the world, that that no one was going to listen anymore to those traditional old ways, those magical ways of thinking, and because it's beyond science. And even she would say that what I'm learning in chiropractic school is considered children's science. In fact, Kupu Nahale from Manalo was telling me the same thing too. What you're learning is children's science compared to our ancestors who knew in depth the world that we live in and the solar system that we live within. But anyway, I'm kind of like going on the side there. But Auntie Margaret would tell me things about what I'm going to be doing. I told her I'm not interested. I'm not interested in teaching. I'm not interested in doing any of this stuff. And she said it was too bad because that's what you came here for.
So she was the one that she was one of the inspirations who led you through to chiropractic school,
Yeah, yeah.
or how
Well,
did that come about?
partly was with her, but another part was Al Wolfson was a good friend of hers, and he was a chiropractor, naturopath. And Al Wolfson knew iridology, and it stunned me to that. And I won't go into that story, but Al Wolfson was her really good friend of hers. They both were Seventh-day Adventists, and Al Wolfson did a lot of mission work down in South America, and the stories they would talk about and the healings and stuff like that was amazing. And Auntie Margaret was, didn't go there, but she's part of that education, and so that's a connection to the chiropractic school.
Oh, I see, I see. And then from chiropractic school, then you kind of continue to travel. Like, what made you want to travel around the world and you know help out all these people from all over the world, like traveling, teaching courses, and doing all these things?
Yeah,
Was that?
I mean, listen, I mean, I don't have all the answers to anything in my life in the world. I can just speak from my own experiences and my interpretations of what I see and experience. And my traveling began after I left high school when I went to the military, then had that exposure in foreign countries and combat zones and so forth. And then after that was tennis. And then, I was able to play professionally for a few years. And I taught professionally for many years tennis all over the world, Tahiti and France, all over. And, having that kind of experience, and And of course, my wife would explain to anybody that my chart would tell you that one of the destinies, one of my characteristics of who I am is traveling. That's part of my lifestyle. And so after that, when I was in chiropractic school, how I began to teach, because I had no interest in teaching, none at all. And it amazes me that when I have students that come into my classes, my Manalomi classes, um, the first question they would ask me, not a lot of them, but once in a while I get them, how can I teach this class? And the moment you ask a Hawaiian kumu or kahuna, whatever, this kind of question, you just lost any potential of learning anything, because they see your intentions and they understand that it's for the wrong reasons. And so anyway, I was in chiropractic school and I was asked by a chiropractic professor who teaches soft tissue. So in chiropractic school, as a young student in chiropractic, not I was older, but as a young, as a second, third year, my reputation was moving around the campus a lot from my work, from the Lomi work that I learned from with Auntie Margaret, and even the adjusting that I learned from her and Al Wolfson, and so um, um, I went off a track here. What was I talking about? Completely forgot what I was talking about.
So when you was going through the chiropractic school and traveling around
Oh, that's
to
right. Yeah. So, I started teaching the class because a professor who's a chiropractor in the soft tissue aspect of the courses that you have to take in chiropractic school asked me, "Hey, can I show him some techniques?" So I showed him a couple of things, and he was blown away. And he asked, "Can you teach this class? I want to learn your stuff." And then another student friend of mine was having a hard time getting his patient visits in senior clinic to graduate. He wasn't getting enough people, to come in. And so he came into, so I taught a class like 5 people. One of my professors at school who's a chiropractor, and a number of my students. And the moment the class was over, that my student friend finishes his patient visits literally within weeks because of the hands-on skills that he learned from that. And it was from then, and I was in direct communication with Auntie Margaret, what I was doing, what my intentions was, and I was there to just help people out. And she was the one that encouraged me to continue the work, because who else is going to do it? And
Mhm.
so that's when it first started, me actually teaching from necessity of helping other people, then later financially.
Oh, nice. That must have been a good advantage that you had from having that Auntie Margaret training and then going to chiropractic school then.
Absolutely, no doubt, no doubt.
Right on. So I know being a chiropractor, what is and the importance of our spine. Um what can we do these days to keep our spine healthy? I know that's one of the things that everybody's kind of aging. We're all getting a little bit older. You know, um, what can we do to continue to keep our spine healthy?
Well, so the reason why I feel chiropractic is so successful. By the way, the Kaunohi Award is from Alexander Kaunohi, who was a kahuna in Honolulu, a Laulapa'au person. But he also graduated. He also has a chiropractic and naturopathic degree. And what's interesting, I'm going to side align the story here, because what's interesting about Kaunohi is that he treated my father when my father was a young man who had an illness that the medical doctors couldn't figure out. And my grand uncle Julian Yates, who was a senator, was the one that took him there because he was sick. They didn't know what was going on. And he walked into the door, Kaunohi's office, and Kaunohi looked at him and says, the first thing Kaunohi said to my father, didn't know him, didn't even know my grand uncle, but because of reputation, my grand uncle took my father there, right? And so the first thing he told my father before he even closed the door, the house you live in, there's a water tank by your kitchen. The third pillar around, from your kitchen window around, there's a bone buried there. There's a man buried there. You need to take care of that. Just like that.
Wow.
So when people start giving these esoteric readings about past lives or whatever, all this kind of stuff, it's nothing compared to these kahunas that existed in Hawaii, including Auntie Margaret guys, because they could read and see things way beyond the physical self.
Mm-hmm.
How did they know there was a bone over there? How did they even know there was a kitchen by the water tank? I mean, even describing the house. And you know who did that too was Morna Simeona. When I was dating Rel's son was a surfer from Maka'ala, and we dated for a few years, and she was like number 3 in the world surfer, and I was playing tennis professionally, teaching professionally, and one night there was this image, a male image, walked through the living room, and I said, "Whoa!" It was like a ghost image, and it didn't bother them. I said, "You guys see that? Oh, what? You saw one guy, yeah?" I said, he comes and goes. He's been doing that for years. But it doesn't bother us. What? And so I said, do you want to do anything about it? He said, what? Do you know anything about it? I said, no, I don't know, but I know somebody who knows. And so I contacted Morna, and Morna says, okay, I didn't tell her what the situation is. I said, can I meet with you? That's all I said to her. She said, yeah, come up Liki Drive-In. Liki Drive-In.
Oh.
Oahu, yeah. So that was like her second office. So I went over there. She was talking to another student. She said, wait, Maka'ala, sit over here. She finished with the student. She said, okay, now come sit down over here. What's up? And so I tell her, I was in the house last night. I didn't tell her the name. I didn't tell her where. I just said I was in his house, and I saw the image walking through the living room. And I was wondering if you know anything about it. She said, wait a moment. And she looks right at me, and she stares like she's looking through me. I don't know, maybe less than a minute. She was in this trance state. And then she said, okay, Maka'ala, here's the situation. There's a man that hung himself. So in that house, the living room goes into a hallway. She's describing the house to me without me telling her anything about the house.
She's never been there before.
Never been there before. And she said that it is a hallway by the living room. In the hallway, there's a closet. This man hung himself in the closet. That house was not there originally. It was moved from someplace else. But don't worry, Maka'ala. This man is just confused. We'll help him. And so with her help and me, and Rel and her daughter, and we did some ceremony around the property while Morna was doing her thing in her place, energetically, and we never saw the image back again. Right? So, and we're talking about being able to connect with not just people who are in physical form, but those who've already gone on or stuck in between worlds. And then Ralph finds out that she asked the landlord, finds out that the house was moved from Sand Island, and she bought the house from Sand Island because Sand Island in that time period was when all the Hawaiians was evicted. That's where all so they could build the Honolulu Harbor and Ala Moana, all that stuff there. There's a big sandbar over there at the mouth of the Honolulu Harbor now, and so this man we're talking ancestors and generations of living on this Sand Island, and he didn't want to move, and he hung himself in the closet, according to the woman. So everything was confirmed.
Wow. So these kupunas, like that spiritual connection, or that that way that they would be able to connect to know all of these things and not even need to be present. It's pretty amazing, huh?
Well, see, now that's the question that I've been asked a lot now about connection. Because you notice now, because with the whole COVID thing going on, and I don't want to get into that subject matter, but with that, it even making things even more separated. And that to me, I feel is orchestrated for a reason. The more we are separated from one another, the weaker our ahupua system becomes. So when I say ahupua system, I mean the connection within each other in our communities.
Uh-huh.
We go to the store now. We can't talk to each other because our mouth is covered and we don't see each other. And we have this distance going on, and we have this reminder that this terror is happening, and so now we have this fear, and we're lacking that love and the connection with one another, which is a sad thing. So but the connection is so. I get this question a lot in all my travels in Europe, and in Asia, in Hawaii. You know, one Hawaiian woman from Hana, Maui, years ago asked me, Maka'ala, I feel that our family system is being falling apart, not just hers, but in general.
Hmm.
And I said, she asked me, how do can we reconnect the family again? And I told her that I could probably speak ad nauseum about philosophies and principles about family systems and keeping families together, Hawaiian or non-Hawaiian. But that wouldn't do anything because there's one thing that's lacking within our communities. And I asked her if there was two elements, doesn't matter what that element is, that creates a thread that all of the or a connection, energetic connection, that all of the people in the community can latch onto, or maybe it's not the right word, but to grab onto, so that the connection is there within one another. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I asked her, what are the two things that are missing in our society? And words came up, love and this and hate, love here. No, I said, no, 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 no. Put it into physical form. What two physical elements are missing in our communities? So I'll ask you that question, Kamaka. What do you think that is?
The elements
The,
that are
the
missing
connection,
from,
the connection that's missing, that can bridge the family back together again.
I think food is always, the um, that the healthy foods and eating together as families.
So you see, we can come up with 100 ideas and things that can relate to that, but that's not what I'm asking. It's just two simple connection, and it has to do with the kupuna on one end of the spectrum, and what's on the other end?
The keiki.
Kamali'i. The kamali'i and the kupuna. That's what's missing. That connection. You asked me a question. You had a question here about, you haven't asked me yet, but I have it on the email, that about disciplining children, or keiki. Sorry,
Uh-huh.
you know, and I don't like the word discipline because is referring to scolding and creating a harshness to the soul of the young child. Yelling
Uh-huh.
and screaming at a young child starts the fracturing of a soul, or separation of the spirit self and the soul self. So the physical, spiritual, and the soul aspect of an individual. And you know the two connection. What the kamali, the child, and the kupuna, the elders.
Uh-huh.
You bridge that connection again. You bring the communities together. But what are we doing with our elders? We're putting them in, not maybe you and I would do that, but I mean in general, even in Hawaii, what are we doing? We put them in retirement communities, we put them in old folks' homes, and what signals are we giving our kikis? Well, they're irrelevant. They're not necessary anymore. Well, when a kiki becomes a teenager and they become, um, you know, um, you know, typical teenager behavior, who do they turn to? Not the parents. Parents don't have time. They're working. They're busy. They're frustrated. They're stressed out. It's broken record with the daughter or the son or whatever, and pretty soon, they're bumping heads with one another. But who do these teenagers or even the younger male and female turn to? It's the grandparents and the great grandparents. That's who
Mhm.
have the time. That's who have the wisdom to tell stories and to share things and to share a part of the culture with this growing up child, so that they can realize the significance that they have between them and their parents. You see, the kamali'i and the kupuna, bring them together again. Then you have a foundation to bring the family together. And then, so because growing up, I mean, I remember this. I was giving a talk in Rome, I think, yeah, in Italy someplace, and one of the other speakers he's an Aborigine from Australia, and he was saying that in his time growing up, a child in his village, you never hear a child cry. You might hear a child cry for a moment, but it would stop immediately. And the reason is because everyone in the village takes the time to find out what's going on and to participate and to help and to be with this child.
Hmm.
You see, so it's everybody's responsibility to help one another out, and that's where we are separated from.
So with these keikis, and some of the keikis, pakiki, a little bit hard head. How can you, tactfully, in a sense, without using the word disciplining these keikis? You know what I mean? Like how does that work? I know connecting them to kupuna, but as probably a lot of makuas listen to, um, you know, listen in, trying to figure out, hey, I get three keiki, and how can I, without having to, give them a pa'i, how can we, or time out, how can we keep them in line?
Yeah, I see. These are words that are suppression. It's
Uh-huh.
it's it's suppressing the soul of this keiki.
Uh-huh.
It's not about keeping them in line. It's not about um, you know um, s- you know I don't know what the other word you use, but hard hit. These they're not hard hit. They're trying to communicate, and we're just not listening. That's all.
Uh-huh.
And my two sons, my older son was a Taurus, and he was determined. God, wow, we, and he just needed to understand what is his role. What am I? Obviously, you want to create an environment that keeps him safe, keeps him
Uh-huh.
healthy. You know, and so that takes time. Listening to a child takes time. Most of us don't have time in our lives. We don't have time, and everybody is busy. I mean, you got to pay bills. I mean, you got to go here, you got to go there. And when we have time off, it's like we all do it together, but it's so fast because we don't
Uh-huh.
have time. And every child needs the attention of something, and there's
Uh-huh.
nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. And again, I'm gonna remind you what I said earlier. I don't have all the answers. Yes, I raised my own kids and all that, but they're still gonna be who they want to be.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I we've prepared vegetarian meals for our kids. Yeah, they had chicken and fish, but no meat, no beef, no pork. Growing up, then in high school, they went and visit their friends. Hey, Dad, how was the sleepover? Yeah, they made some pork for us. It was really good. And we're like, what? You see, they kind of freak us out, right? Because we want them to live healthy, right? Because and so forth. But you cannot discipline them because they did that. They have to experience that. Then I don't know. My son got older and he's in college now, and he got to drinking and sometimes carried away drinking and then relationship breakup and all this kind of stuff. And eventually, you know, um, they're gonna come around. And I told my wife that too. Like she was like, "Oh no, our son, look at the direction they're heading into." But don't worry, they'll come around. Sure enough, the older one asked, "Hey, Dad, I want to do a 3-day fast with you. Can we do that?" Absolutely. So now he knows how to do the 3-day fast. So he can detox his system, and he doesn't drink today now. This older son, and all on his choice, not from us disciplining him or counseling him or honing into him what's right and what's wrong.
Hmm.
It's allowing him to understand what his role in life is about, and to know that we're there to help support them each and every step of the way when they want it.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's important, like you just said. I mean, just knowing that you got their back, and that you're supporting them 110% with whatever they do.
They have to come to their own realization, but we need to be there to support that.
Uh-huh. So as
So
as
yeah,
as Makua.
sorry, I wanted to point out one more thing too. I see this a lot, not just in Hawaii, but outside Hawaii too, where the parents are yelling at the kids, in the stores, not to touch this, like that. That kind of yelling is so unhealthy for the child.
Uh-huh.
Spanking, so unhealthy for the child, because what that does, it it sets the tone for the rest of their lives of what they cannot do. It puts limitations into asking questions, into inquiring about things, learning about things. You know, yeah. So yeah,
I think one of the things that a lot of um, people say is like, "Hey, when we was growing up, we got lickings. That was the discipline that we got, and we turned out fine." That's what a lot of people will say.
hmm
So in a sense, that's what um, they feel that can be. Um, I guess that's part of what's been passed down. That hey, growing up, we all got lickings, and that was part of the discipline process. Um, So I think there's that, but still learning as young parents.
yeah, but
Like
but that stuff never existed during my great grandfather days.
mhm,
That's something brought in after the missionaries came. I'm not
yeah,
blaming the missionaries. I'm not blaming the white people either. But that behavior, it never was like that before. So all I'm saying is that when I was raising my two sons, I
uh-huh,
realized that very same thing that I was doing that my parents was doing to me, and that was wrong. The way I was disciplining my kids, I was doing it the way they did to me. And my wife brought it to my attention, and I said, "Oh my gosh, look at that! I'm shutting them down. I don't want to do that."
yeah,
And I had to break the blueprint of how I was raised, and then look at my children and see who they are, and raise them accordingly. But through force was not the way to do it.
yeah, yeah. I talked to another kupuna who said the exact same thing that hey, our kupuna wasn't like that. You know what I mean? That they weren't the the violent type who would discipline in that sense. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah. No, that's definitely, obviously, you know, you don't want the child to walk across the street without looking. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to teach them certain things about about taking responsibility of their actions.
Hmm.
Like not knowing what a chili pepper tree is, and grab a chili pepper and then take a bite of it. Instead of saying hit the hand and say don't eat that, it's gonna burn your mouth. Let them bite the chili pepper. They bite the chili pepper. Whoa, they're about hot. They won't touch it after that. Huh? You know what I mean? So they learn through experience, but it's tough love is okay. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be strong. You shouldn't have a. I mean, having tough love is important. Raising children, no
Uh-huh.
question about it. And so I don't have all the answers, but I just can tell you that violence of any sort does not work, and that is actually suppresses the soul of the child.
Yeah.
And and being a wimp with the child is also not good either.
Uh-huh.
But I tell you right now, you ask my sons today, they'll tell you that they that what they have learned is through our behavior, my wife and I, how we behave.
So
They respect me so much of how I treat my wife, their mother. And they have never heard us scream at each other, yell at each other, ever, ever in their lives in our home, ever. Because there's no need for that. If we have a disagreement, we sit down and have a discussion. And what happens in a lot of families is that they start yelling at each other because they're stressed out,
mhm.
financially stressed, and pretty soon it becomes a separation issue now. And now divorce happens. And I mean, even I remember when my wife and I had a disagreement in my kids were still in high school, and my youngest son said, "Mom, are you guys getting a divorce now?" Because their friends all divorced, and
Yeah.
it's common for their friends to hear yelling between parents.
Uh-huh.
And my kids have never ever heard that our behavior like that with each other.
So you got any tips for families out there? 'Cause, I mean, obviously, with everything going on today, it's a stressful time for families. You know what I mean? Where I mean, Hawaii, they say over 40% of people, 30 to 40% of people is unemployed. You know, mental health issues. Obviously, more people, you know, alcohol abuse. Any suggestions for or tidbits through your experiences for some of these families that are going through these struggles? How can they maintain that balance or that pono in their life during these times?
Yeah, that's a tough question because I mean, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and start um, spurting out all these ideas for the listeners out there to to gain from. There's just no way that I can do that. I can tell you that obviously, finances is a big issue. It has always been. It's always been a big issue with our culture, especially, but not limited to the Hawaiian culture. And you lose your house. You're homeless. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you have to deal with, and it's easy for someone sitting on a behind a desk and blurting out ideas for to help them out. And I can tell you that what has to happen is we have to come together as a community and find out what are your needs, and then within the community, who can help this and who can help that. My nephew, he lives in Sacramento. He sent out a message to all of the people on his social media. He says, anybody out there is homeless, don't have food, you're going hungry, you contact me now. And he says, you don't have to worry about your identity. I will keep it private, but I'll make sure you have food. You see, this is what I'm talking about. Get the people out there involved with each other. Find out what their needs are. I remember when I was in Kauai doing a class there and the power went out, the whole island. And I was in Honolulu, and everybody was panicking over there. The people were fighting in the stores, taking water, trying to get all the food out of the store. Everybody panicking. So I called my friends down in Kekaha on the other side of the island, the Hawaiian side of the island. The first thing Carol says is, "So what, is everybody panicking up there?" I said, "Yeah, they're going crazy with the cops are by the stores and all that." She said, "Well, you know what we're doing over here? What?" I said, "We're going door to door, find out what you need, and then we go find out who has it to give them water, food, whatever." And that's what I'm talking about. Why don't we do something like that to help each other out in this time until we can get back on our feet again? Because there are some in the community that can help.
Yeah.
And there are others who are just in this. It doesn't matter how they got in the predicament. They're in the predicament. Come on,
Mhm.
step up and let's see what we can do to help each other out.
Yeah, definitely. So the more of a community based, like, supporting each other then.
I think a lot of families think they're alone. They don't have
Yeah,
any,
yeah,
they don't have their support. And I think if someone was able to go into the community and communicate that, hey, listen, I know so and so play, and a lot of churches are doing this. They're going the Mormons are doing it, but everybody should be doing it. It doesn't have to be a religious effort. It should be a community effort.
yeah.
I do that here. I mean, I know if somebody needs help, um, health wise, and they can't afford things, I'll give them cleansing herbs. In fact, I just made some cleansing herbs this morning, just before I came online. And oftentimes when people can't afford it, I help them out. I do what I can. If I can afford it, I'm going to help them out. If somebody needed um, to come into my class but couldn't afford my class, and they have a legitimate financial issue, and they have a family that they want to support, of course I'm going to let them come in.
Mhm.
This is what I'm talking about. Find out what their needs are, or if someone asks me, and if I can help them, I will.
Mhm.
I wouldn't even think twice about it.
So when you talk about the cleansing and fasting, um, can you explain a little bit um on that aspect of, like, the healthy habits of, like, periodic cleansing or
Okay,
fast.
so right now I'm 72 years old, and a lot of people don't believe me, and I tell them that, because I don't. I mean, I guess I sound like I'm bragging. I suppose I am.
And let them know that you shoot in the what 70s or breaking
69.
60,
I shoot
60,
69 in the golf, yeah.
69. All right, 60s. You're a 60s
But
golfer.
but not often, but in the 70s usually. But I play with young guys, 30s and 40s and 50s people. But anyway, so um, the first fasting I did was with Auntie Margaret in '79, and I've been fasting every year since then. Now I fast, and I only do a 3-day fast. It's still considered a prolonged fast, 3 days, but it's no food, and it's herbal formulations and different things. It's a program. It's not like not eating for 3 days. It's a very specific program, and you can go to monolomi.com or indigenousbotanical.net, and to find out more information about that. So the reason why I created this 3-day fasting program was to help the Hawaiian people out. When Hui no Ke'olopona from Maui asked me to come in and be involved with the community there with Lomi and other things, including nutrition and fasting, and so I when I mentioned to some of these Hawaiian, we're talking 30, 40, 45 of them, said, let's do a 3-day fast. And they said, what's involved with that? I said, well, we're not eating for 3 days. Oh, no, thank you. Not eating for 3 days, Maka'ala? No, I don't think so. That kind of response.
Mm-hmm.
But in 2005, I was able to get 40 people, 20 at a time, fasting, and all kinds of health improvement happened. So in a 3-day program, they fast for 3 days, taking herbal formulation and with grape juice and stuff like that, and seawater flush. The Hawaiian, it's a combination of Hawaiian philosophy and modern ingredients. So the Hawaiian philosophy is always, you clean the na'au out before you treat the person with herbs or anything like that. And how they did that was they drank brackish water, or seawater. They mixed the seawater with fresh water, 1/3 seawater and 2/3 fresh water. But in Hawaii today, I'm not sure how clean that seawater is. But you can get sea salt, healthy sea salt, from the caves and stuff like that, like Himalaya sea salt. Or I get mine gifted from Hanapepe, and then I also get salt from Poland, about a mile underground, like a million-year-old salt from really old, really good stuff. And actually, so 1 tablespoon of sea salt in half a gallon of water will flush the system out in the morning, early in the morning. So we do I call it seawater flush. Of course, people who are listening shouldn't just do it on their own. They should, consult me first before they do something like that. But you clean your entire digestive tract out, from the throat all the way down, the esophagus all the way out to the large intestines. And then you take herbal medicines or pharmacy, or other natural medicine treatments or whatever it is. But I do that fast 3 to 4 times each year. So I've already done 2 this year already, and I'll do 2 more in the fall and wintertime. And that's just my regular regime of my life every year. And that helps me to detox the system, because there's air pollutants in foods, especially heavy metals. So the kind of fasting that I do, and also they don't have to fast. I have people just doing on cleansing. So they take the same formula, the powder formula, the cleansing formula, and they don't take aggressive amount like we do in a fast. But they can eat normally as they would, but they detox themselves at the same time. I developed this for the Hawaiians before we did the fasting, because fasting was not going to happen for them. And so I developed a 2-month program, because I find in 60 days, the behavior patterns, the lifestyle changes starts to kick in. 1 month, they go back to the old ways. 2 months, they start changing in new ways, because they see the results better. 3 months, for sure, you see them change, want to change their life a bit, to live better. And so the cleansing and the fasting are 2 different things. Fasting is an aggressive way of detoxing the body. The cleansing is a slower way of detoxing the body, but you can eat like you normally would each and every day. And then you do a parasite elimination. So there's a lot of parasites in Hawaii. You have animals, you have kids, you eat out, or you eat raw fish, I guarantee you have parasites. And parasites are linked to a lot of issues, including arthritis. So yeah, so the formulations that I make, the powder and the tinctures and all the stuff that comes with the program, I developed that over 30 years. 30 years of developing that. And
So you have a kit available that people can
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
they can
walk
go
their
to
body.
indigenous botanicals, and it's
Okay,
all
indigenous botanicals.net.
yeah, and they can go
Okay.
there. Otherwise, Manalomi is there too as well. So I did want to clarify the lomi that I do with the Manalomi. And that is it's because today there's all kinds of lomi going on out there, and I see this especially in Europe, big time. A form of lomi that never originated in Hawaii, but they're selling it as it is without going into details. And based on Huna, which is we know is not Hawaiian, which I won't get into
Mhm.
at this point. You know, and the lomi that I do is focused on problem solving. And that's what Auntie Margaret is really, really good at. She could fix physical problems with a snap of her finger.
Mhm.
And that's what my focus is, teaching that and doing that.
So on that problem solving, being good at assessing what's actually causing these issues, then.
Yeah, going to the core of what the problem is. Somebody has, for example, a rotator cuff problem. The shoulder hurts, and,
Mhm.
and maybe the rotator cuff is involved. Well, there are key muscles that are important in this area. One of them is a teres minor. So teres minor is an external rotator of the arm and shoulder, and it's attached to the scapula and the humerus, the bone of the shoulder, the arm, the upper arm bone. And how you work on that muscle is critical in terms of getting results. And most therapists or professionals in the health in the hands-on field are I feel are not competent enough to understand how to work on that muscle. So if you know how to work on the muscle and you open the muscle up, then the rest of the other tight muscles will unravel like a domino effect, and then you
Mhm.
have faster results. So the teres minor there is a key link to the whole shoulder girdle. So in the body there are key links, muscles that play a key role in the configuration of other muscles. If you can get into that one muscle, it'll help you with the rest of the muscles. Sometimes you're not able to get to the teres minor because they can't lift their arms up. So to access the teres minor, the arm needs to be extended up, to need to be up, raised up, because then it's exposed. When it's down, it's hidden underneath. Of course, you can get to the attachment on the other side, but a lot of times the arm, when you bring the arm up, then you can address that muscle. But if you can't, then you need to know how to work on that shoulder girdle to allow the arm to come up. So there's ways of doing that.
Right on. So um I know with everything going on, when's the next time you're gonna be doing some workshops and stuff like that in case some of our listeners would be interested? Because I mean, you know, the problem solving is always one of those things of people always coming to people with issues. You know what I mean? Whether it be low back issue, neck issue, so finding ways to resolve some of those issues is always people are always interested in that. I know um, these days it's hard just with the current situation of things and with travel.
Yeah,
Um, but you got anything kind of
yeah. Well, it depends. I mean, it depends on the travel restrictions going into Hawaii, because I'm living in Scottsdale, Arizona right now. And right now, I'm scheduled to do Manalomi 1, a level 1 class in Maui, in Kihei, at the Maui Maha, MAHA, Maui Academy of Healing Arts in Kihei. And it's level 1 on the 24th of September. It's a 4-day program. And then level 2 is advanced Manalomi on the 28th to the 1st of October. So 4 days each. So 24, 25, 26, 27 is level 1, and then 28, 29, 30, and then October 1st is level 2. But it all depends on whether the quarantine is lifted or not.
yeah. Okay, so that one's in October in Maui.
No, September 24th.
Or
Yeah.
September in Maui.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and that's the only one right now. I'm scheduled to Hawaii because I have to wait until I see. I mean, absolutely, I cannot go to Europe. There's no way the American can go to Europe.
Hmm.
So right now I do classes here in Arizona. I haven't scheduled anything yet because I'm waiting for the dust to clear.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't make
So do
sense to organize something when people can't even come here.
uh-huh. So if some of our Leo Kupa listeners were interested in the fasting and in the cleansing, would they be able to contact you via email or just phone calls or whatnot?
Yeah, they can go to the website. My email is there, but they can go also to Manaola, Manaola at centurylink.net, and that goes directly to me as email, and they can ask any questions they have, and I can point them in the right direction. If I don't have the answers, I can point them in the direction that they need to go into. And
Perfect.
then and then I mean, I know that there's a lot we haven't covered because you had a lot of other good questions. Maybe we can do another part two sometime in the future. Um,
Yeah, yeah, no, we'll definitely have to do a series of these because I know you've been doing this work. I mean, like you said, starting at 6 and now you're 72. You know what I mean? So that's a lot of experience, and I wish we could do a 2 day Leo Kupa with you, Maka'ala.
yeah,
Um,
the other thing too is I also do Ho'oponopono sessions to people to help people out. So they can go on to the Mauna Loma website and find out that information. And
okay.
and again, the Ho'oponopono that I do versus and like the Lomi that I do, it's all focused on problem solving. So it's not about philosophical principles. It's like, okay, what is your story? And what I do is I listen to the story of what the problem is. What is the main heading of their story, and then I ask questions based on that heading of the story and find out all the key players involved in that story, and the key experiences involved in the story, and the trauma, whatever is involved, and then connect the
Mhm.
dots, and then find out, okay, where is all this? Where's a key link in this whole story that we can unravel, because it gets really confusing when people have these conflicted issues, emotional issues,
Mhm.
and so forth. But anyway, it's something we can discuss another time, perhaps.
Okay, perfect. So, with a lot of some of the practitioners listening in, and one of the things, what would be some of these characteristics or practices of people who you consider to be excellent practitioners in our community? What traits do they have?
Well, see, it goes back to the same thing again. It is not me to decide who's exceptional, who's excellent. It's a community that decides that, not me. And 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 you know um, and in terms of the elements that leads to that exceptional ability is their work in the community. How
Mm.
And not just because they're teaching classes now that makes them this expert. I'm talking about in the field, in the trenches, helping people out. People have physical problems, emotional problems, mental problems, whatever it is. They know their work. Then the community will recognize them as such. But just because they are teachers doesn't mean that they're excellent practitioners.
Yeah.
So it's your work that is your legacy, not your words and not your video clips and all this other stuff. Your marketing strategy is not all of that. It's your
Uh-huh.
work in the community that you live in, or extended community if you like. I mean, I reach out to people all over the world, and I've created these micro community of like-minded people, and have their and of supporting and helping one another out. We even have opportunities once a year where we go into communities and give lomi free to the community, depending on their needs are, like in Japan and Poland and other places, and Italy. And in Hawaii, we did it when we were in Hana. We took it to Hana and work on the people in Hana for free. You know, why don't we do more of that?
Hmm.
It's nice talking to you, Kamaka.
Right on. Mahalo nui. Mahalo nui, Maka'ala, for your time. Any last messages to our
Yeah,
keiki or to our families in Hawaii and around the world?
yeah. I mean, I mean, there's a lot to say. There's a lot to say. I do want to, I do want to express what is it that I do to maintain my positive attitude or my inspiration in life, because I I look at things that inspire me, and because I want to inspire other people. If you're coming to my class and you're not inspired, I'm not doing my work. If I can inspire people in what I do and who I am, you know, that is my focus, and so you know, for me, I get up every morning and I visualize and I see an outcome that I prefer to be in. I understand that just visualizing something is not going to happen. I mean, you have to. There's a lot more action that needs to be taken for a positive outcome to happen. But I always look at, no matter how negative another person is, I always find something positive about them. Looking into the positive of other people, that to me is the challenge, and that's where I feel that we can make a difference in the world.
Awesome.
Hey, we end with a song?
Sure.
Ole Kumukahi. You remember that one there? Okay, here we go. Aloha kumukahi, ya, hey ya, aloha kumukahi, 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 ya, hey ya, kumukahi, kumukahi. Oh oh, pono pono, hey ya, oh oh, pono pono. Oh now, pono, hey ya, oh now, pono, hey. Oh mana, oh pono, hey ya, oh mana, oh pono, hey. Oh oh my kai, ya, oh my kai. No oh no oh no, yeah, no oh no oh no. Mahalo kumukahi, mahalo kumukahi. Yeah.
Yo.
That next time we have time, I'll explain this song that I wrote, this chant, Mele Oli. It depends on how I use it. It's based on that book that now the first book that I wrote.
Nice. So for people, for listeners that want to get on to the Nauaola Hawaii Hawaiian practices and principles of being well book, where they can get down at.
Well, you can go to Amazon. Amazon is still there, but I'm going to be doing a second edition next year. So just hold on. I mean, you can still get it. It's on Amazon.
Okay.
But I'm going to be re-editing that book and republishing it next year.
Perfect. Right on, right on. Well, we'll definitely have to do another one of these Leo Kupas here soon.
It's always good talking with you, Kamaka.
Right on. Well, mahalo anui once again to our guest today, Maka'ala Yates, for joining us on Leo Kupa. Mahalo to all our listeners. Mahalo, Brother Makoa, for helping produce this podcast. Please share this podcast with your ohanas. Subscribe to our emailing list at huimauliola.org. Follow us on the socials of Instagram and Facebook. And if you got any questions or comments, please kahea mai. Mahalo for the stories and Leo Kupa today, Maka'ala.
Hey.
Nui ke aloha. Nui ke aloha. From Maka'ala Yates, o au kamaka nui a ha'ilono. Ola.
Ia.
E kia kua mana loa lai lalo ke kai na umakua ia kahina kua. Kahina alo I kai kina komohana na kopuna. Mahalo piha e ho mai ka ike ka ikai ka kamana ke ola.
Ia.
E au
Aloha.
a mama ua noa e ho o mana. No e. Mahalo nui Maka'ala. Enjoy the rest of your day and we go be in touch.
Aloha.